We talk Miami football. We do it every Thursday night with a wholesome one. Here he is, ready to roll. So get ready, folks. Take advantage. 60 minutes with a wholesome one right here at the Voice of College Football. Wholesome one, how's it going tonight?
It's great. It's great to be a Miami Hurricane, baby. It's great to be a Miami Hurricane. It's the off season, Mark. We're gonna win our championships. I tell y'all this every year. We've been 10 years in a row, been the off season champions, and we just want to continue to repeat. No, I'm just messing with you. It's really good, of course. The Lord woke us up this morning, and it's just been a blessing. Make it through the day. Excited about what's going on. We knew we had this commitment that came on, and we got a great commitment for the Miami Hurricanes and for them and their program, and for those of us that cover the program, and for those of us that are fans of it, man, we're happy to see the young men and who we got today.
I'm glad that you can do that and hide a little pain. I know that you don't totally believe that. You're bent on winning and winning when it counts. But hey, the season's over, so you might as well say, just embrace this is what it's been. We hope for better in the future. We believe in Mario is going to correct this, but for right now, hey, can't correct 5 and 7 right now. Just got to look ahead to 2023 and put together the best football team possible.
That's the best thing you can do. And at the end of the day, rivals are doing really good off the football, on the football field, as far as Tallahassee with a 9-3 record going to the Reese's Athletic or Russell Athletic or Cheez-It or whatever they call it nowadays.
It's now the Cheez-It Bowl.
Cheez-It Bowl.
I did a video on this, wholesome one. This bowl game started in 1990. It's had like 9 names. Yeah,
good for them.
It changes every few years. But anyway, it's the Cheez-It Bowl right now. Yeah.
Yeah, they got a chance to go there. So they're winning on the football team. They're the best team in the state. And they're doing well for them and their program. It took them a while to get here. But for some reason, their fans obviously forgot last year and forgot the year before that and the year before that and the year before that. So, hey, we only live in the moment right now. We only care about what's happening right now and in the future. So for us as Miami fans, we get to be excited about right now. And the number 1 offensive tackle in the country chose to come to the University of Miami. Come on, somebody. Hot dog.
Well, based on what you know, what you've seen, what you've heard, put it all together. What's your analysis?
First off, of course, I love him. I argue that Francis Mauigoa, in my opinion, is the better prospect. I will say that. I think he is the number 1 offensive tackle in the country, according to the H1H's review. But looking at 247 and looking at what Honcho Pancake brings to the table, and I'm really excited about him. I'm super happy that he comes here. This is 1B to 1A, in my opinion. Pancake Honcho is a very highly sought after recruit. If this was 5 and 7, almost under almost any other coach, he wouldn't even have thought about picking Miami. And let's just be honest about that, because that's where you find the truth. It's in the honesty, in the honest viewpoint of this program and of this logo. I would say maybe 70% of the young men that are going to put pen to paper this upcoming Wednesday would not be Miami Hurricanes, if we're just being honest about that. This would be probably somewhere in the 30s or 40s and piecing together and talking about the crib is great and talking about some 4-star from Miami is a 5-star anywhere else and trying to shove that up everybody's butt. But instead, we're to the point where we have a coach. He brings a certain level of culture. He's an elite recruiter. We have a great benefactor and someone in the NIL deal. Yes, that is a factor, and we're open about that. Why? Because that is legal now. So those in the SEC, those in the Big Ten, that USC, they can't just pay players like they used to. Everyone gets the opportunity to do that now if you have the right people in contract with your program giving NIL deals. John Ruiz is who I'm speaking about. And he's done a great job giving our young men an opportunity. Him, in conjunction with Dan Redikovich, in conjunction with Alonzo Highsmith, in conjunction with Coach Cristobal and his staff, have building a program that is attractive to some of the best talent in the country, not just in my hometown of Dade County, not just in the state of Florida, not just in the South, but in the country. Today we signed the number one player, of course, in Massachusetts, but the number one player in his position in Sampson. Now, I want to be able to pronounce his last name the right way. That's why I always say Pancake Honcho, but I want to be I hate mispronouncing people's last names. So out of respect, until I'm able to get the proper pronunciation and enunciation of his name, I'm just gonna say Samson, or I will say Pancake. I'm referring to the number one offensive tackle, just for clarification.
I assume that our guy Cam has pronounced it correctly, but I don't remember how he pronounced it, and I don't remember either. And like you, I do not want to butcher anybody's name. So we will learn his name. He will make us learn his name, most likely, with his play on the field. We will need to know his name, and that's the best way to go about it. So, yes, out of due respect, we will not butcher the name.
Right. I'm about to pull up a YouTube video here in a second. I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to pull up a video, and I'll get the pronunciation because I want to make sure I do it right, because I forget that was a young man that I was on with you a couple years back, and I kept saying the wrong pronunciation. And every time I listened to it, it was a great video. It was a big-time recruit, and I kept saying it wrong. No, I don't know if he was a big-time recruit. I think it was the transfer, Quincy Roche.
Okay.
And I kept saying Quincy Roach over and over and over, Roche over and over. And just listening back to it, I felt so horrible. Like, oh, it's like cringy, So, but again, I'll just stick to saying Samson out of respect. Anyway, the kind of player that we signed. A lot of people in our fan base. What happened, Mark? You about to say something?
I was just going to say, I pulled up the recruiting rankings here. Miami's at number 4 now, 247 Sports. And to your point about other teams, obviously we know who's in the top 10.
Right.
And none of them are losing teams from last season except for Miami. You got to go down to Texas A&M at number 15 to find the next team that had a losing season and was able to pull in that high of a class. So, yeah, just to back up your point about Mario and what he's able to do regardless.
Because that's who he is. Okunlola. Hold on. I'm sorry, Mark. Keep talking, Mark. Hold on.
So we appreciate everybody being here at Voice of College Football every Thursday, folks. And you know what? We got 66 online. We were a few minutes late, but we almost didn't have a show tonight. So got to feel good that we've got a show, and bring some of your friends in here as well. Do that for us.
I got it, Mark.
Okay.
Okunlola. We got it, baby. Samson Okunlola. All right. We got it. I still call him Pancake out of respect. Just out of, I'm used to saying it like just calling him Pancake. And he likes that Pancake Honcho or Honcho Pancake. No, either one. So we'll just refer to him as Pancake. But we made sure we got him Okunlola. Perfect. I love it. Anyway, the kind of player that we are getting. I'm going to say my one minus, and I'm going to go on a positive after this. My one minus about the young man's play is competition level. In Massachusetts, they're not spitting out the biggest and best. I watch him in his highlight tapes, and just like Coach Hayes would say, it's a bunch of little Timmies out there. There's some guys that's probably going to UMass to major in business. It's some guys that's going
to say there's a bunch of guys that aren't going to play any football anymore. This is their end of the football. So I was going to even trump you on the UMass, but you filled it in with it. Yeah, they're going to UMass, but they're going to business school. Yeah,
you're right. Which is nothing wrong. There's more to life than
absolutely.
Football. But I'm just saying, as far as from the football perspective, that's where you're coming from. You got some guys going to UConn to play men's volleyball. Okay, that's the kind of people that we got on his tape. That is my only minus. All right, let's get into some positives. One, he was rated very highly in the state championships, did not win the state in wrestling. He is a state championship shot put thrower. He is a state championship discus thrower. He is the number one player in his state. He was signed and listed as the number one player in his county, one player of the year in the state of Massachusetts, and will be attending the Under Armour All-American Bowl. Okay, so those are some of his achievements. He stands at about 6'5", roughly about 6'5". He's in the early 300s. Early on, it was a very big issue because he was very light in the behind. That's the term that we like to use. Light in the behind, what that means is he was pushing about 250, 260 in some of his videos just a year ago and the things that he would put out. Okay. There's just one video of him going live where he was just like on his knees and he was using the power. So powerful, Mark. He's on his knee, popped out into a stance, and seamlessly went into his six-step kip slide. Leverage. Another thing that is really tough for young men to learn when you're playing that high, when you're tall, 6'5", is leverage. Now, plus in him playing against smaller, littler guys, him being a wrestler, him throwing shot put, is the knowledge of the power that comes from your hammies, your rear end, your core. Okay. Being able to play at that level and engage those muscles upon contact, especially in wrestling. So he's going up against these 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" defensive linemen. He got to get down there to them. So that might also end up being a great positive for him because every time I watch his highlight tape, his leverage, it's not like on contact. As soon as he makes contact, he starts to rise up. You see him make contact here, and as he steps, he gets lower and lower and lower, and you see his chest start to come up and his hips sink down. That's how you know that you're engaging your lower, because even if you try to do it while you're sitting right now, you tend to rise up. You see yourself doing this when you engage those muscles. So that's what you're looking for in offensive lines. I don't know if his coach is teaching him that, or maybe he has a private coach. Either way, whoever has been assisting him in his growth, thank you, because you're helping this young man go off to be probably a great college football player, but more likely than not, you showed him the great knowledge of leverage and how to properly engage certain muscles. Now, the next thing. He's a nasty dog, Mark. He's very nasty and aggressive. The big thing with offensive linemen is you want to be able to, yeah, you that big, but are you a big dog that's moving folks? Are you just like tossing people aside because you're tall? Or when you clamp on, you see that initial jolt and they never get a chance to separate. Okay. Plenty of times you see offensive linemen get them hands on people, and then as you see the defensive linemen stack them up, and as the play goes, they share it and go over. You see him engage with people, the next thing you see is the man going in the ground. Okay? Because that's the way when he has that grip, that hand strength, and he puts them in the ground. I say all those things to say this. I'm very, very excited about the young man. As you can see in my voice, as you can see in my face, I'm excited about signing him. To the fans, he is an early enrollee. He's coming to the University of Miami per his commitment. We still have to allow him the opportunity to come in now, face men that look him in the eyes at 6'5". Face some defensive linemen who happen to be 6'1", who are very powerful. To face a defensive lineman like Ruben Bain, who's 6'1", but has a 6'4" wingspan with really long arms. Or even to face 6'7" young man we flipped from Michigan, who's taller than him. For him to go up against guys that's been in college a couple years, who are 20 and 21 years old, who may not be the best player, but you are 18 and you think you can move them with their grown man strength. For him to be able to learn how to, okay, now you got that 3 technique, you step down, and you coming up to a senior linebacker in Corey Flagg, who's 5'10" and a half, you think you about to just blow him up, and he uses his leverage and pops you because he's coming from here up. So it's just exciting to know we have that kind of player, that kind of prospect, but we also have we're building a good offensive line culture. We can't wait to see what he can do stepping into the program. I'm only speaking to the fans and to myself, trying not to get too overly excited and just putting him into the starting lineup and thinking he's going to plug and play, he's going to destroy everybody. We finally going to run the ball. We blowing everybody. No, he still has to come in. He still has to be coached. He still has to continue to work hard. He still has to meet Coach Aaron Feld first and his staff and our nutritionists and Coach Bellamy and what they do in the nutrition program at the University of Miami. He has to step into that realm first, then step into his playbook, and then he'll get a chance to put on those pads, put on the helmet, put on the uniform, and go out and play. So we want to be excited for him, yes, but not saying temper your expectations and saying that you don't think that he's going to play. What I'm saying is understand that freshmen in the trenches, especially in the trenches, if at corner, maybe. Receiver, sure. Running back, okay. Maybe even some outside linebacker, but places like O-line, D-line, middle linebacker, free safety, quarterback, some places it's a little bit more cerebral or physical, but on offensive line it's cerebral and physical. And sometimes it takes them a mango season or maybe half a mango season to be able to get the right physique and mental strength to take off.
I was going to make the comparison here because you were talking about the level of play in the state of Massachusetts high school football. I was actually somewhat surprised here. Now, this is just one little small bit of information, doesn't mean a whole lot, but still. I looked at the number of 4 and 5 stars in the state of Florida. The number turned out to be just about where I expected it to be for the 2023 class because I look at this stuff constantly. So there are 79 4 and 5 stars in the state of Florida. And I'm actually surprised that there are.
Can I guess before you say it?
Did you hear me say it?
No, you didn't say it. I want to guess.
I did, but
I'm going to say 12.
6.
6. Okay.
I was actually surprised there were 6 4 and 5 stars.
Is there any in North Dakota? That's where I am. Is there any?
I will look that up. But
okay.
There are 2 5 stars. The other one's going to Georgia. He's a safety. He's the number 2 safety in the country out of Massachusetts.
What's his name?
Jonel Aguero.
Oh, yeah. Miami was trying to go after him. Obviously, it didn't work out, but yeah.
And then the other 4 and 5 stars are going to Notre Dame, Clemson, Penn State, and BC. And then it drops off a cliff. Yeah, I will look up North Dakota. But actually, Massachusetts, that was a better faring than I thought they would have.
Heck yeah.
But
so, Mark, I got to flip it on you. We don't have as much time as we usually do, so I got to flip the question on you. Have you got a chance to check him out? If not, I mean, he's the number 1 player at his position, so he's a good guy. He's a good player. He has the size, blah, blah, blah. Him coming to Miami, though, specifically him signing to Miami, what do you think this means? What do you think it says about him? Where's your mind go knowing that he signed to the University of Miami?
So this always tells me a lot about the recruiter, meaning Mario Cristobal as the head coach, and then the offensive line and the position coach, regardless of who that would be for that particular player. But this is my take, is that so just to get the player a 5-star, and there's only about 40 of them, 35 to 40 of them in America. So these guys are rare. They're not all just walking down the street on every street corner in America. There's only 35 or 40 of these guys. So to get one of them, just to get the talent and the potential on campus is obviously just in and of itself, if it had no impact on anything else, that would be big.
Right.
But the possible impact, depending on the person, depending on a lot of other factors, is that that player brings other players. And I don't even mean because he's got buddies that come along with him. I just mean the more big time players see that big time players are going to a particular destination, the more that gives credibility to what they've got going on, especially when they're coming off a 5-win season and really haven't had a big time season. If you want to consider 2017 a big time season, or if you want to go all the way back to 04, 05, that to pile up players that are the best at their position or close to the best at their position gives indication to other top players that this is a place where I want to check it out, as opposed to they've been down forever. They're 5-7. I'm not going to check it out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I like to get an outside perspective. And the other reason why I ask you these kinds of questions, Mark, is not only have you been observing, but you are now more publicly than you were even when we started building our friendship in 2018-ish, when I started being able to have this blessed opportunity of Ohio State, a program that has just been consistent. Now, whether you like them or hate them, either way, it's about one of the greatest programs in the history of the sport. And what happens to me when you observe a program like that, and you see people come in and out, and you see 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, no stars. I mean, you see all kinds of people have success at a place like that. I like to get your viewpoint, because not only is Sampson joining a Miami team that is down, a Miami program that is currently down, but he's joining a program that is in the mix of trying to change its culture. And when you're trying to change a culture, to me, the biggest thing I guess you could do is throw a bunch of 5-star offensive and defense alignment, some of the most selfless people there are on the planet. Okay. Some of these offensive linemen are married by 23, got kids by 24. They're just there, hard hat, playing ball, go home to their family. That's them. And having those kinds of people to build the program with, I think it's uber important. So, yes, of course, he would have picked, if he picks Ohio State, hey, he's joining a program that's already established. To me, it says something about a 5-star offensive lineman, specifically, that wants to go to a place to help create a culture, know that they are a part of a rebuild, know that this team isn't the most talented, accept that and say, you know what? Coach is honest with me. Coach is telling me how it is, what it's like. I won't have the most talented teammates just yet. This team isn't senior-led just yet. We may only win 6 or 7 games my first year, but I'm coming here with the right mindset of what it is going to take and be willing to step in and work my behind off. Have nothing given to me, go out and work. And eventually, it'll come to pass, in my opinion. But I definitely want to just get your viewpoint on it as an outside source.
So, and time will tell whether this comes to pass or not.
Mm-hmm.
For as effective as Mario Cristobal is in recruiting, do you think because of his background as a player and a position coach that he's going to have more success, especially outside the state or outside the area along the offensive line, than the other positions?
Yes. It's just us. Yes. Now, my long answer would be similar to Nick Saban's DBs, who have been struggling now more recently, but historically his DBs are great. Kirby Smart's linebackers are great. Jeremy Pruitt's linebackers are great. Lane Kiffin's quarterbacks are great. Lincoln Riley's quarterbacks are great. Usually the position that they have a specificity with, they do very, very well. Recruiting-wise and play-wise, and then spitting them out to the NFL, if that's your specificity. One thing I do know about Coach Cristobal is that he's going to have a good to great offensive line. And it's going to make the defensive line good or great also. But see, it's also started to branch out a little bit further now, Mark. He's starting to develop bringing in tight ends. He's starting to get to the point where he can sign linebackers and running backs. Now, to me, quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, safety will be tough for Coach Cristobal, in my personal opinion. But the defensive line, the linebackers, and the running backs, tight ends, I think he's going to do very, very well in recruiting those guys. Why? Because his specificity is going to be so good that it's going to attract. If I'm an edge rusher, I want to be able to go. There's a reason why not only did you bring in some great defensive ends, but Chase Young wants to go to Ohio State. Why? Because he gets to play against some of the best offensive linemen too. Will Anderson wanted to go to Alabama. Why? Because he wants to play against some of the best offensive linemen in practice also. He got to go head-to-head with Evan Neal also every day in practice since they were freshmen. So you bring in, of course, you build the Great Wall of Miami. That's what Miami fans are calling the offensive line that Coach Cristobal is creating. The Great Wall of Miami. You build that, that's going to help recruit quarterbacks because who wouldn't want to play behind that? It's going to help recruit running backs because who wouldn't want to run behind that? Tight ends because who wouldn't want to be the 6'5", 270-pound guy that just gets to beat on the D end some more too? It's going to bring in some great defensive linemen because they're going to want to practice against that to make them better. And linebackers love to play against offenses that have good offensive linemen and also have a defensive line that can protect them so they can scrape also. So I think it does help that his specificity is offensive line, and that is why he has spit him out. And he has proof of concept, Mark. He's developed a top 10 pick at offensive line, a top 10 pick at defensive line, and he recruited, signed, and didn't see him through to his last season because he had it under Dan Lanning. But Noah Sewell is also a Mario Cristobal pick, signing and developed, and he had a better season, 120 tackles under Coach Cristobal in that scheme that they were running in defense. This year, he had 45 tackles as a junior. I'm just saying. Call a spade a spade.
So, North Dakota high school football. Now, after I tell you this, and everybody out there laughs and ridicules, I'm going to bring another statistics to light to put it into a little bit better context. So for North Dakota, all right, are you going to take a guess at how many 4 and 5 stars they have?
I said 2. 0. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. I know we had no 5 stars. I know that's obvious. I know.
Do you want to guess how many 3 stars?
4. Oh, I had 2. Oh, man.
2 3 stars, and then it goes to 2-star. And the number 1 player in the state is an edge rusher who is going to Minnesota, and he's the 61st rated edge rusher in the country.
For those of you all who don't know, the reason why Mark is bringing this up is because I live in North Dakota. I asked him to, for the people who are hopping in now, I asked him to. I live in North Dakota. I attended and am a graduate of North Dakota State. So that's why, for context, it was in conversation. We're not just taking blatant shots at the state of North Dakota football. So just so that's out there, that's the whole reason why that even came up.
But to also put that into context, you got to understand that the population of Florida is almost 22 million people. And the population of North Dakota is 774,000.
Damn.
So that has a lot to do with it too. If 21 million people moved to North Dakota, they'd have a lot better high school football.
Oh, they're on the way. They're on the way, Mark.
If 21 million people moved to North Dakota, they'd still have a smaller population than Florida.
I wonder where all these people would go. All this farmland up here.
Yeah,
and the cost of living. No, y'all stay out. My cost of living is beautiful. Why you think I'm still here? Y'all stay out. But anyway,
good cost of living up there, huh?
We got 10 more minutes, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. About 10 more minutes. Mark, I can't stop smiling, man. It feels good because I understand that you fast forward 8 months from now, and I might be super excited about the start of the season, but I still have a feeling in my heart that we're just not there yet as a team and as a program. And I'm saying now that I'm thinking 7 to 8, somewhere in there. Tallahassee is better than us, better program than us. Clemson is better than us, better program than us. Texas A&M, to me, is a 50-50. We'll see. North Carolina is better and has a better program than us. That's 4 right there. That's 8-4 would be at best based on how I'm looking at it. But I still believe that Coach Cristobal's main thing that he kept saying is acquire talent, acquire talent, acquire talent. And that's what it will be about. Throwing as much talent, as much 5-star, as much as we can at this logo, at this program. So I will ask you, and then we can head out of here. The formula and how this recruiting class has come together. Now a top 5 recruiting class, something that I said what happened. I said this. You remember that, Mark, right? I said, we're going to have a top 5 recruiting class. You remember? I said that, right, Mark? I say top 3, but I think they're not going to give it to us because magically they said if Samson picked Miami, we would be number 3, and now we're number 4. So something must have happened in there where they magically didn't give us the love we deserve. Anyway, the talent acquisition and putting this great recruiting class together. Do you think that Coach Cristobal is taking the steps to build the right program? Is he taking the steps and based on this recruiting class, whatever, to put it together? Do you think that he's doing that?
Well, I think that the recruiting ranking is an obvious answer. However, the only question I would look into past that. So the recruiting ranking is a slam dunk that if you're 4th in the nation in recruiting, you're tearing it up. Right. You're great. Right. The only thing I would look at past that is what are the priority needs on the roster in terms of position, and are those being addressed? And to your point, these guys aren't going to come in and make an immediate impact. Now, a few of them will, but even those few that will, it's most likely going to be like a Leonard Taylor situation where now, hopefully under a different coaching regime, as opposed to, we'll see him on the field earlier if somebody's ready to go as much as he was and be given more reps. But so that's really, there are so many more variables to these recruiting questions today than there would have been 3 years ago, because we would have been like, okay, here's the recruiting class. There's a 90% certainty, that any one of those players is going to stay, meaning 90% of these guys are going to be with the program in 3 to 4 years, as opposed to now you got to re-recruit them every offseason. You got to keep them there. So that's the big wild card. What would be interesting to do, this would take a lot of time. This is the kind of thing and the nerd in me wants to do, but I don't have time to do it, and it just wouldn't make me enough money producing videos doing this. But if you take the Miami class this year and you look at all the way the place that they're ranked, let's say either at their position or overall, and you go, let's say, through the last 10 years, take Cormani McClain, for instance, and say, top cornerback in the country. Let's look at the last 10 number 1 cornerbacks in the country. How much of an impact did they have the first season? Go to the number 1 offensive tackle. Go through the last 10 years. Same thing. And then if they got the 14th rated running back, let's look at the 14th rated running back and just get a thought. It would give you a really good indication as to how much you could expect this class to make an impact the first year. Although most of those players in previous years would have been joining teams and programs that were much further along and didn't need them as much. So these guys should get more opportunity to make an impact.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just hope everybody and their mama don't start Nick Saban went 5-7 in his 6-7 his first year, and listen, there's a lot of stuff on the field we got to fix at Miami. Again, off the football field, building the culture, building the right camaraderie, building the right team, building the right mindset, and building the offensive and defensive lines is what I believe over the next 365 to the next 400 to 500 days we're going to have to build is that. The big expectation, I could say maybe year 3, we could start having those kind of conversations. But building the offensive and defensive lines is what has been known since the game started almost. You start to fix that, you're more likely than not going to be in play for some big time wins. If you don't have that, or you're just above average of that, then maybe you got a great quarterback and a great offensive coordinator that can make it happen. Miami doesn't really have that. So therefore, we have that. But I don't want to, I know you got a show coming up here in like 5 to 6
you're
more
fine.
minutes.
I got a question for you. Got another one here. So somebody I was just going to check out the recruiting rankings because our guy, 52 Biggie,
Okay.
said that Texas made a move, flipped Texas A&M player. Let me ask you this. We'll just look at the defense. When you look at the 22 defense, and correct me if you think there should be another category here, but this is the way I look at it. You've got talent, then you've got the development of that talent. And I mean like working with each individual, working with their units, their technique development, their strength and conditioning, all that goes into development. So you got talent, then you got development. Then you've got scheme. You've got scheme, how well they adjust, everything involved in X's and O's on the defensive side. And then number 4, you've got just sheer effort. When you look at this Miami defense, that we looked it up last night, 101st in the nation in yards per play given up. How much of it was an issue with talent versus scheme versus development versus effort?
Okay. We'll go bit by bit. Scheme. I don't think it was scheme. This 4-2-5 defense has been implemented at Miami since 2018. It has been recruited to the 4-2-5 defense, and the 4-2-5 defense under Coach Steele has been historically one of the better defenses, and he's a very established defensive coordinator. So I will not say scheme. You won't get a cop-out from me in that right there. Now, if we were a base 34 and we got outside linebackers covering slots getting bombed, that's a separate conversation. But I don't believe that the scheme, because it is a multiple 4-2-5, meaning there's been some 4-3, there's been some 3-4 in there. This multiple base 4-2-5 scheme is not the main issue. What was your second one?
Talent.
I would say I would give talent about let's say 20% of the issue. The reason why I say that, depth. After we got through our starters, it was some issues there, but there were some 4 and 5 star guys that didn't play up to snuff in that one. So I'm gonna say 20% of it is talent due to after the first starting 11, we get to our 22s, we get to our 33s on defense, and there was a big drop off at some key positions.
Development.
I don't really, the tough part for me is, Mark, how can you develop somebody in 8 months? Or 9 or 10? That I would say has to happen over time. The reason why we had issues with Coach Manny Diaz and his scheme is that he had been here for 6 years, and some of the same issues we saw in 2016-17 on certain downs, we were still seeing in 20 and 21. So I for one don't believe that you can judge development on somebody that's been there for less than a year. That's just me. If people want to say that's a cop out, whatever. But I'm not willing to blame coaches for them being there for that short of a time on development.
Then the last one would be effort.
Effort. 80% of it to me was effort. I almost gave it 90, but I understood that there were some times where there were some second and third streamers out there that had to play a lot more. or maybe started the year and then eventually lost their job to more talented players. I'm going to say effort/communication. Effort/communication in there. The reason why I say that, a bunch of these bombs were happening because we were going cover one, or sometimes even cover two or cover four, where we have too high help and the safety in the corner aren't even talking to each other, and the corner gets bombed and the safety is nowhere. He's in the middle of the field instead of helping one of the corners. That's me. I would say it's a little bit more of the communication side of it than it is the effort. Because I did see guys trying hard out there, but there were some times where Tallahassee starts to pull away. Some games where teams started to pull away and it was a complete blowout because you just didn't see any fight back. You didn't see any stop. You didn't see any scoring. So that's why I say communication/effort. And people may disagree, and that's okay. That's fine. We all have our opinions. But that's where I would go with it. And getting guys who just didn't want to be here anymore, or may not value the logo, may not care about the school, may not want to be a Miami Hurricane anymore. And that happens. This happens. There's people that don't want to be Florida Gators, people that don't care about Alabama, people that don't care about Georgia. These things happen. And big plays, that's a part of the game now. Penalties. Remember that used to be listed as you have a lack of discipline for penalties. No, that's not. I wouldn't say that as much as I used to in the past. Because the way that these flags are thrown, Mark, it could be 3rd and 28. And you just lob a ball up for a PI call. And if the young man doesn't turn his head all the way around, PI, boom, right there, automatic first down. And, teams that play a bunch of games, let's say you get into 15, 16 games, you're going to be high in penalties. If you all disagree or think that I'm not telling the truth, look up right now who are the top 5 most penalized teams. You'll see teams like Bama. You'll see teams like Georgia. You'll see teams like whoever's going in, because when you play that much, you're going to end up racking up penalties. And these things do happen. So I'm hoping that we are now filling a roster with people who understand where we are and want to be here. It's just that simple. So I'm happy. I know you made the title fast. We got to switch that title to Pancake Honcho picks the University of Miami. Number 3 offensive tackle, according to 247. ESPN has him listed as number 1, so that's why I said number 1 offensive tackle for him. Some other people have him at like 2, but either way, he's a top 3 consistent offensive tackle in the country. So we definitely appreciate that. Super excited, man. Super excited.
Wholesome one. Before we run, we got our buddy Kyloren who makes this statement about Josh Gaddis. What is your response?
To be honest with you, Josh Gaddis will still be offensive coordinator. At this point, you've gone through almost the first recruiting cycle. He's still going out on trips and recruiting. You want to talk about having little time to build an offense. At this point, if you were going to make a move, in my opinion, he would have already done it. That's just my opinion. Coach Cristobal does move differently than most people, and I see him making a move in February or something like that. But in my opinion, he's still going to be our OC, and I think he wants to get a chance to see what Josh Gaddis' offense actually looks like when the team is healthy and when you get to throw a bunch of 5-stars at it. Because we can't argue that the first offense that he had those first 3 games was not the same offense he had week 9, week 10, due to injuries to a bunch of key players.
Right, folks, I got a call-in show right now. Just go to MarkRogersTV.com. You can hit it right here on the YouTube channel, the main channel. Wholesome one, appreciate you. Thank you for doing this, as always, man.
Thank you for the opportunity. Be blessed, you guys.